We're live. I have done it, Estefano, if you're watching the recording. So everyone, hello LinkedIn. Welcome to another one of our sessions. I'm in control of all the buttons today, which means Estefano's not here behind the scenes, which slightly worries me, but I've managed to get us live, Steve. We'll probably be here 3 hours later because I won't be able to stop it, or we reach the limit on StreamYard. So hello everyone. Normally there's a bit of a delay in LinkedIn Live, so we don't get comments straight away, but if you are online, just give us a wave in the comments and let us know you're here. I am here with Steve Watt from Seismic. Do you want to introduce yourself, Steve? Just, what you do.
I want you to do it. I want to see what you say.
No, well, I could say, no. Go on, you're much better at it. Because we've known each other for quite a few years, haven't we? And
I'm Sarah's best friend from across the pond. So I focus on social selling and employee advocacy and really the emerging nature or the growing nature of enablement. Enablement for a long time didn't really involve social, and we're really seeing that changing, and we're seeing social really emerge as a critical part of enablement, and that's really where I focus. So it's at the intersection of social selling, employee advocacy, enablement, specifically how social drives real engagement and in support of selling and in support of hiring and lots of other things. So I have the tremendous pleasure of working with our own internal people to help us get great at this. I work with many of our customers around the world on this, and I get to do stuff like this, which is one of the most fun parts of it.
Oh, that's good. Now, I did say you're in Toronto, but you're not, are you? Where are you?
Toronto.
You are in Toronto.
Yeah.
Right. I knew you were in Canada, but I couldn't remember. So you're based in Toronto. Well, we've known each other for quite a while, haven't we? Because we watch each other's activity on Twitter, and we've been on a couple of SAP radio shows talking about this very topic. And I think you bring a really good perspective because you are the marketing director at Seismic, and you have a passion for social selling, digital selling. The whole point of this LinkedIn Live, and I know we've got people watching that want to learn about this, that are in marketing roles and trying to understand the impact of marketing on digital selling, social selling. Actually, there's the first question. What do you call it, Steve? Is it digital selling, social selling, virtual selling, modern selling, all of the above, other?
Yeah, all of the, it's kind of like, it's just selling. I mean, I think, so prior to my focus, where I have been focused now for the last few years, prior to that, I was really focused on account-based marketing. And what we often said is, the time's going to come when no one's going to call it account-based marketing anymore, because it's just marketing. Like, really, if you're not account-centric, and if you're not like really dialed in on your ideal client profile and everything like that, then are you really doing marketing in B2B anyways? So we always said that people are going to stop saying account-based marketing, and they're just going to call it good marketing, right? And it's kind of like that here, because people, social, as you said, social selling, digital selling, this and that, and it's selling, right? At the end of the day, it's selling, it's sales, and it's professional B2B sales. In many cases, it's professional enterprise sales. I don't think social selling over time needs to be its own discipline so much as it needs to be for now, because so many people still have so far to go in figuring it out. So I think it is important that we, whether we call it social selling or digital, what I profess is that, the word social selling or the phrase social selling has kind of been burned by bad behavior. And a lot of people are kind of allergic to it. And what I propose is buyer-centric social selling. And I'm happy, if you'd like, I'm happy to go into detail about how different it is, because it's very different. But to your broader question, well, like, what is this called? Well, I think it's important we call it something, whether you choose to call it digital selling or modern selling or social selling, because we need to shine a big light on it. We need to learn about it. We need to get better at it. We need to sort of banish the bad practices and elevate the good practices. But over time, I think a few years from now, it'll just be like, well, it would almost be like saying, well, like, think about the fact, I mean, every seller uses email. Every seller uses the phone. I mean, you couldn't be successful without those. Well, I think we're going to get to a point where every seller uses social, and you just can't thrive without it. But we're certainly not there yet. So, long roundabout way of not answering your question, Sarah. But I tend to say social selling.
Yeah, you tend to say it. I see Estefano's left a comment. Estefano, are you checking up on me, Estefano? Let's see if I'm doing it right. Anybody who's watching, if you just want to, pop your comments in as we go through this. So I'm going to now start talking a little bit. I have got a list of questions here, but typically on these sessions, Steve, I never stick to them, and we always talk about other stuff. But we will talk about the topic of marketing and selling and social selling. What's your view on that? And I'll give you my perspective first. A lot of marketers will be, oh, that's a sales thing. It's a sales enablement thing. We don't get involved in that, But there is a bit of an overlap, because marketing typically are the ones that manage the brand social channels. They have the social expertise, the behaviors, what works, what doesn't, what content, that kind of thing. And there's a little bit of, should marketers get involved in social selling enablement? Do they have a role to play? Should they stay out of it? What's your perspective on that?
I think they have a huge role to play. I think that too many marketers are too narrowly focused on marketing metrics, and they're not focused enough on business outcomes. They're not focused enough on how they can truly help the organization. And so I think marketers have a critical role to play in it, as do enablement teams, as do sales leadership and salespeople. But I don't think marketers ought to sit this out at all. And in fact, I talk with a lot of marketers in a lot of organizations of various sizes, and marketers at various levels in their career and within their firms. And I see again and again a bit of a myopic focus on marketing metrics, and often not enough real perspective on how to drive the business. And what I always see when I'm talking to someone for the first time, a marketer, and specifically a marketing leader, and I start to hear what they talk about and what they focus on, I picture like a maturity model, a journey in my mind, and I'm kind of plotting them on that journey as I talk to them. And I'm also plotting their organization. And I think it's really interesting, because I think there is a really big evolution. It kind of starts with, specifically to the marketing and in social, right? Like at the kind of the base level there, it's kind of like, well, yeah, we have a company page, and yeah, we run our company page, and the job to be done is to gather more followers, I guess, and to, refer traffic to our website. And as long as we're, it's just one of many channels, and it's not important. And, and they start, and then, the next level up the maturity model, they start thinking a little bit more about, well, this is actually an amazing targeted advertising platform. And, we really ought to be running some really smart campaigns and doing targeting, and, they do that. So, okay, we're now moving beyond just like, there's a company page. And now we're getting into ads, but costs are high. Oftentimes, conversion rates are low, and so then they kind of fizzle out a little bit. So then sort of the next level up the maturity model is like, oh, wait a minute, what about our people? Like our people have these massive networks, and they probably have way more reach than our company page. And why don't we activate our people? And so, hey, everyone, share our press release, share our earnings report, share that we won a Best Place to Work award. Yay, us, right? And then, so again, we're doing better. We're moving up. We're getting into a place of something better. But then they always like, well, adoption's low. Like a lot of our people don't care, and engagement's low. Like they try, but they get like 2 likes, and they're both from their coworkers. And I don't know how this is driving business impact. And, my CEO certainly doesn't get, and then there's a higher level up the maturity curve where you really start to enable and empower your people to really show up as buyer-centric, customer-centric professionals, and build trust and build relationships and spark business building conversations. That's kind of like the holy grail. So anyways, as I am inclined to do. I'm giving you a long answer, but I think marketers have a critical role, but they can't just stay down here at the bottom of that thing and just go like, it drives me nuts when I'll talk to a marketer and be like, well, you got 100,000 followers on your company page. Great. Yeah. Like, how much engagement are you getting? Well, like, and they don't know, or they look and they go, well, a little bit. And is it mostly from your own employees? It's like, yeah. Are you engaging your customers and your prospects and your partners and industry influencers through your company page? No, I guess we're not. Okay. So what are your goals for next year? Oh, we want to grow our company page followers by 30%. Well, it's just more of the same. You got to, like, if you just stay down at the bottom of this maturity curve, all you're doing is driving vanity marketing metrics. You're not moving the needle for the business. You got to work your way up this curve. So marketers have a critical role, but they've got to expand their vision of what they're doing here.
Now, Audrey has just said, yeah, marketers, they can't sit this one out. They've got to be part of that. Do you think marketers maybe have an opportunity to be the drivers of this change, Steve, or not?
Because I think that they can. Yeah. They can play a critical role, but they can't do it alone. No. I mean, there are some great marketers who absolutely get this and are trying super hard. I talk to a lot of them. They reach out to me for therapy. It's like, Steve, I get it. I'm trying to do this, but oh my God, my sales leader doesn't get it. My CEO doesn't get it. Like, what do I do? And it's hard. Like, marketers can absolutely be champions for this and critical change agents, but they can't do it alone. Like, I mean, you really need sales support and you really need executive support.
Now, I'm going to come back to the ABM thing in a minute, but I wanted to touch on what you said about organizations. So you need marketing, you need sales enablement to make digital selling, social selling work. What roles do each of them play? So, where does marketing get involved in creating a successful digital selling program, social selling? What does sales enablement do? So who plays what part to make this thing work within the sales environment? And then we'll start talking about further up the maturity, because that excites me, because I love that stuff. So, but yeah, who does what? Because I'll tell you why I'm asking that, actually, Steve, because when people go into scale-up phase with their social selling program, they can't do it on their own, right? They can't be 3 people in global headquarters running social selling. They need an army of advocates, champions, ambassadors, whatever you want to call them. Train the trainers. Kirsten Boileau talks about this a lot, about building up a network of trainers. But where do those trainers sit? And when I ask people this, they tend to say, well, it tends to be marketing people that raise their hands to be the local champions, instigators, that kind of thing. So what's your thought about who does what?
I think it differs from company to company just based on the realities of companies. I think where it's going is it's going to live more in enablement. But enablement is critically under-resourced in the great majority of companies. I mean, it's mind-boggling when you look at these organizations that have 1,000 salespeople and they have like 1 or 2 people in enablement. I mean, that's just it's just crazy, right? Yeah. It's like having 1,000 cars and 1 mechanic, trying to keep them all roadworthy. It's not a wise allocation of resources. So, I mean, I think we're seeing a tremendous surge in enablement. I think we're seeing a whole lot more organizations understanding the tremendous leverage you get from investing in enablement, investing in people, investing in technology, investing, in the process and the mindset of enablement. So I think that it's going to live there.
Yeah.
But the reality is in many companies, it cannot live there quite yet, because that's 1 or 2 or 3 people who are already stretched to the limits. And I think that it seldom lives in sales because everybody is much more tied to immediate outcomes. They're tied to quarterly numbers, and they might philosophically agree, but they don't have a lot of bandwidth to support it. So that's why I think it falls to marketing in a lot of organizations, because a good marketer and a good marketing team does see beyond vanity metrics, does see beyond MQLs and lead gen, and sees brand building, sees real demand building, sees beyond the end of this quarter, And so I think it falls to marketing today to be the driver in a lot of firms. But I think over time, it's going to need to live in enablement to be really organizationally sound.
Got it. So I'm going to go on to marketing now. And Estefano, stop commenting because you're supposed to be doing your work. Not work at Tribal Guys. I'm not.
Yeah. Crack that whip, Sarah.
He's doing, yeah, I know. Yeah, hard taskmaster. He's supposed to be doing his degree work. But I know you're a bit of a Chris Walker fan, aren't you, Steve?
I am.
You are, and Estefano is, which is why he's very interested in hearing you speak today. So, can you now? Anybody who's not heard of Chris Walker, do you want to just give us? He is turning marketing completely on its head, isn't he? I mean, this whole way of pushing people to your website, converting on your website, following up. You know, and you've mentioned a couple of things there, which is about those that believe in MQLs, that believe in, this kind of quarterly driven campaign approach. Just give us your view on whatever we call it, modern marketing, this new age marketing. How has it changed then? What's Chris Walker talking about when he's disrupting marketing?
Yeah, I would not be able to do justice to what he's doing. I mean, I have tremendous respect for him, the whole team at Refine Labs. I mean, I think they're teaching a generation of marketers and a generation of leaders to think a little differently. And well, probably not a little differently, just to think differently. And I think it's really important. And, I think that, well, first of all, I've learned a lot from him. Then other things, I think he's helped me find the words for things that I've been thinking and trying to do for a while. So it's a nice thing there, but tremendous respect. I mean, I think at its heart, it's about creating demand versus capturing demand. It's about elevating your firm above the crazy competitive markets in which they operate. It's about thinking differently about measurement and recognizing the limitations of conventional attribution that tends to overweight demand capture channels like organic, social, and other places where the leads convert, and underappreciates where the real education and value creation and demand creation is happening, which is often in social and in communities and on podcasts and people speaking on things like this, right? It doesn't get measured. It doesn't show up. So if someone listens to me today and likes what they hear, and then we connect on LinkedIn, and then they read the stuff I publish, and and then they start consuming more of that content, and then at some point they convert on a seismic website and request a demo, the attribution software is going to say, oh, that was Google search, right? No, it wasn't. It was because of me doing this, and I'm just one of like 1,500 of our people. What if we were all out here doing this stuff, creating a massive wave of demand? Well, it'd be game changing, right? But hard to measure. Certainly hard to measure in quantitative ways. So another thing Chris would say is you got to measure it in much more qualitative ways, and you've got to ask people, why are you here? Right? Like, not just trust the software to say, well, they searched for seismic and then they converted on this page, so there we go. We know where we know. No, ask them, and ask them not with a drop down menu that says, social or whatever, because you're going to get like kind of polluted data. Just ask, like, have a free text form, or ask them in person, like on the phone. Ask them and listen to them, and they're like, oh, well, I heard Steve talk on this thing, and then I heard one of their other people talk on this other thing, and then I read this, and then I was on social and people were talking about them, and then I went to like this, I went to like in some community discussion, they were talking about it and all this kind of stuff, and that's why I'm here. So I think Chris is teaching us all to think more about creating that demand, to not be slave to our attribution software, and to be willing to make investments in really educating and inspiring and earning a place in people's hearts and minds. as a way to drive business, as opposed to just thinking about quick transactional conversion. And I'm sure I'm not doing justice, but
I'm just going to pause. I was pausing there because I
there
thought that is a perfect clip. What you've just done there, Steve. I think that's
well, he would say all that 10 times better. So
do you know though, I find this fascinating because there's somebody who came into marketing 20 odd years ago, who, you know, it was all about direct faxing, events, conferences, that's all it was. Yeah. Or direct mailing. Yeah. Then email came along. Yes, I'm that old. And then we started blasting emails out and driving inbound demand. So you got people to a website to convert. And Estefano is quite right. He's disrupting my thinking around this because he's a big Chris Walker fan. And, you know, he's saying, you know, we've got to stop this. But how do you convince leaders that this community driven, it's not always about the reach, because when you get to that utopia on your maturity model, you've got employees creating content, creating a voice, you know, and the collective of the whole company has a massive impact on, you know, who sees the brand. You know, it's less about the amplifying stuff out, as you say. It goes to the next level, which is where you start to create community within your employees. You start getting content and discussions, and you know, it's pretty cool. We'll come on to that. But how do you communicate this new way of thinking to leaders? How do you convince them that you got to stop gating your content? You got to start investing in enabling your employees and empowering them and giving them a voice and a platform and freedom. How do you convince leaders when you can't say, oh, well, if we do that, we get this many leads? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, you can't stop doing that other stuff. You can't go cold turkey on that stuff. You know, organizations are built to, like, I mean, every marketer, every demand marketer at some point has heard the phrase, "We've got a sales team to feed."
Yeah.
And what that means is we have structured this business around a high quantity of leads, and if you're not going to bring those in, then we're going to fire you and get someone else to do that, because we got like 37 SDRs over here who have to, like, we hired them, like, feed them. Somebody's got to feed them. So you can't just say, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, it's not going to work. What you've got to do is you've got to continue to feed the machine while doing something else on the side, and you know, it's a little skunk works that starts to grow and grow and grow, and you start to pull more champions together, and you start to capture the qualitative feedback and the anecdotal feedback, and you know, the stories. You start to capture those stories where it's like, yeah, like here's one of our new customers who told us why they're here, and they came because of what we're doing in social and what we're doing in these other ways. Or, you know, like I've got some ungated content that I'm very proud of, and I was on a sales call last week, and the person on the other side of the call, when she found out that I wrote that piece of content, because it didn't come out under my name, it just came out under the company name, she's like, "Oh my God, I love that. I've been sharing that around my company." Like, all of a sudden I was like a little mini celebrity to her because I created that piece of content. Well, you know what, if that had been gated, you know, 90% likelihood she never would have read it, because she would have just hit the gate and bounced, right? So, I mean, you got to still feed the machine. You got to still respect that, you know, people have got quotas and people have got jobs to do, and you're never going to succeed by just trying to burn the house down, right? You got to feed the machine as it exists while simultaneously building something on the side. And back to, you know, we talked about account-based marketing at the outset. Same thing there, right? Like, if you want to build an ABM program, you can't just go, yeah, we're not going to do this other stuff anymore. You know, you've got to continue to feed the machine while you build this on the side. And you want to get to the point where the center of gravity starts to move towards the new thing. Because of demonstrated success. And it's no different with social. I think it's interesting. You got to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting because you start looking at other measurements. So you start looking at intent metrics or intent signals, and there's things like the buyer insights on Sales Navigator. You can see how close a company is coming to your organization. You've got other intent tools that you can subscribe to get insights about who's searching for what. And I think once you overlay all these metrics, we use the analogy at Tribal, it's about bringing them into the fire. So, the Tribal campfire, who's skirting around on the edges, a little bit cold. But as they get closer to the fire, they get hotter to the point where they're smoking, right? And you've got the signals that you can watch, and it's a mix of quantitative and qualitative. It's not just, oh, here's a lead. They won't be ready to buy. They might not be ready to buy. They're in the education phase or the demand gen phrase. It's about culture transformation, and I want to talk to you about that in a second, but I'm just going to call out some comments that we got. So Dave, superb point, business metrics, not marketing metrics. That's your point there. Estefano, I'm skipping over you because I know Steve's saying everything that you believe in, so I'm just not, and you should be working. Oliver, hello Oliver, thank you for coming. Love it, Steve. Said this for years. Social selling cannot be measured by traditional quantitative KPIs, and data are often misleading. At times misleading, especially when you try as a company, because the real important stuff happens under the hood. And on top of this, we're talking about private profiles. So eventually it's a bit tricky to collect and use the data as a company, at least when you're in the EU. Yeah, because we've got lots of data privacy things over here, which makes it very tricky, especially in regulated countries, actually. And that's a great topic, Oliver, that I think we should talk about on another session about, German data laws and, European data laws, but specifically workers' councils and things like that. It's a very tricky one. It's a topic I think we should cover. But coming back, actually, Steve, to what you said actually earlier about culture transformation, because what you're talking about there is you can't switch one off and turn another one on. You got to do these things gradually, start moving up the maturity curve. And I'm quite interested in that because I don't think people realize. They think, oh, social selling, yep, over there. Employee advocacy, whoop, over there. And actually they don't join the dots and see it as a cultural transformation, a digital culture. Digital literacy. We've got.
I think it's like, when you're going to paint your house or something and you go to mix paint, right? And like it all starts with the base white paint and then you mix in a bit of color. And then the more of that you put in, the more now all of a sudden this tin of white paint is, red or whatever. But it didn't happen instantly, right? Like the more of the red dye you put in and the more you mixed it, the more you changed the total paint. And I kind of see it like that in a, you're introducing something new and you're mixing it around, and over time it's changing the culture, it's changing the nature, but you can't do it by decree and you can't do it instantly. And those organizations that try to do it, like either they stop feeding the machine and then they have a crisis on their hands in 3 months or 6 months when their revenue's plummeting because they haven't built social competency yet and they killed all the other stuff, so don't do that. But also if they have really unrealistic expectations that, oh yeah, we're just going to like tell people to go do this. And then, yeah, we're just going to be this amazing social selling organization in 3 months or in 6 months. It's not going to happen that way. Like you're mixing that paint in there, that color in there for quite a while. And over time, it's like, wow, the color of this paint is really starting to change. Like I see it at Seismic. I mean, myself and others have been hard at work at this, for more than a year now. And we're not yet the gold standard of this. We're definitely not. But like that paint is changing color. Like we have more and more of our people are embracing social in really buyer-centric ways and in really positive ways. Absolutely not everybody. And that's okay. Right.
Yes.
But more people are starting to feel the change and feel the success. And they're incorporating it into the way they work, not in place of the other things that they do, but in harmony with the other things that they do. And it's growing and it takes time and it takes patience. And I think that so many individuals fail on social because of transactional mindsets and short-term horizons, and the same is true for organizations. If they think it's going to be easily measured and easily and quickly accomplished, they always quit before they succeed. It's those who kind of like mix the paint steadily over a period of time who get there.
Yeah, and if you think a tool fixes it, it's the behavior you mentioned earlier, it's the behaviors. And that's the bit that I think most often when you see these programs fail, it's because there was too much focus on, not enough focus on thinking at the bigger mindset and the cultural. And we always say at Tribal, it's okay if not everybody's ready. They'll get ready in their own time. Bring the ones with you that are ready, and then you share those success stories, and everybody else starts to come along with you, and it happens over time. So I did write down, actually. So in your experience, how long does it take, Steve? I mean, I know it depends on how big an organization.
Yeah, check back later. I'll let you know once we get there. I mean, it's a journey. It's a journey, not a destination. Honestly, I don't think there's any company in the world. Like I talk about this idea of the ghost town versus the super connected enterprise, and my mental model for this is the ghost town. Like the facades of the buildings are there, but the people aren't there, right? It's like tumbleweeds blowing through the streets. It's like the American Old West, right? There's the signs and the logos and the buildings. There's no people, right? And that's most companies on social. They've got their corporate presence. They've got their company page. They've got their company posts. They got their ads and their job postings. There's no people. And if their people are there, they're just not doing much. And I contrast that with this aspirational view that I call the super connected enterprise. And that is the organization where a large portion, it's never going to be all, but a large portion of their people regularly show up and speak up on social, with real confidence and real purpose and an honest intent to educate and inspire and help others and build relationships and build rapport and spark conversations and kind of shape the market and pull the market towards them. And I will bet on the super connected enterprise every time, like all other things being equal, same size, same quality of products, whatever. If one of them is a ghost town and the other is a super connected enterprise, I mean, there's no question where I want to work. There's no question which company is going to be in my consideration set as a buyer. I'm not necessarily going to buy from them every time, but they're 100% going to be in my consideration set. I'm going to go to their events. I'm going to consume their content. I'm going to refer them to my friends, so like it's the super connected enterprise is a aspirational view. And honestly, I don't believe there's a single company that's there yet, but I don't know that any company ever will be fully there. I see it as a journey. And do you really want your competitors to get well down that road before you? I mean, that's the question to me. I would rather be on that journey, imperfections and all. I'd rather be on that journey than not. And I'd rather be further along that road than my competitors.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, actually, because Dave's just mentioned that. Examine one potential hard metric is examining your competitive cohort and measuring how effectively they're implementing some of these techniques, relative to their performance, revenue, growth, profitability. You could even overlay actually hiring, are their headcounts going up? Are they laying people off? In which departments? I mean, you get all this insight from Sales Navigator, right? So you can start to correlate some data to see that. Hello, Mike, you've joined as well. Oh, Oliver, by the way, I will let you up on that one. But Mike said here, by driving change and getting organization closer to each other, it's important that everyone finds what is in it for me, even if it's only the vision. I think that's a really good point, actually, Mike, because I always believe that you've got to help and empower employees to find their voice on social. So, and a lot of organizations go wrong because they use employees as a channel, but actually it's about empowering them to find their voice, and how that connects to the brand voice or the brand story. What's their story and how does it connect to the brand story? And I think if you can nail that, then one employee at a time, it just can make a massive impact on the organization. It can bring a lot of people with them. And something's going on in my head, actually, Steve. I will get to some of these questions in a second. Talent acquisition I need to talk to you about. But something that's crossing my mind is personalization, and it ties into what Mike's talking about. I think it comes down to the individual. What's in it for me? So how do you, when you've got an organization of thousands of employees, make the enablement and empowerment personalized to their part in the journey? because one somebody might be right at the start of it and someone might be an influencer. You've got everything in between. It's quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, I believe that, well, personalization, we could go in a lot of ways, but like specific to this, like to social empowerment, I picture like a pyramid in every organization. I call it the pyramid of social engagement. And this pyramid exists in every organization. And there are, as you said, there's a few people up at the top who totally get it. They were all over this before you came along or before I came along to tell them, right? They totally get it. They do it well. They're like high performing athletes. And what they want is, can you give them tools or approaches that can help them get a little bit better? Because they're all about performance, because they're already good at it. And then in the middle of your pyramid, you've got the people who are like, yeah, I kind of know that I should probably be doing this. I get it. Like, I understand the concept, but geez, I'm busy. Do you have any idea how many other things I have to do? And how does this fit into my workflow? And, so they're not the high performing athletes, right? They're like the person who's like, well, I really ought to work out more, but I'm busy. And they're the people who buy a Peloton because it's easier than going to the spin club, or they're the people who buy the home gym because it's, for them, it's not about super high performance. It's about, how do you make it easy? So how do you bring tools, and how do you bring training to them to help them make it easy and help them work this into their busy day? And then at the bottom of the pyramid, there's the people, they're the couch potatoes, right? They're not the high, the athletes.
They're watching the Olympics on the telly.
Yeah, that's right. While they're eating chips, right? They're not, you're not going to get through to them talking about high performance. Like, what? And you're not also going to get through to them talking about, oh, here's how to make it easy, because they don't yet understand why they should care. So it would be like, back to this analogy around the fitness and everything like that. The person at the top isn't going to listen to you if you're like, let me tell you how to make things easy. They're not interested in that. They're interested in performance. The person in the middle will respond to the easy. The person at the bottom, you got to focus on why you got to get off the couch and, go for a walk, right? Like, it's not like, there's no point in saying, hey, you know what? A Peloton is easier than going to a spin club, because the person sitting on the couch will say, well, I'm not interested in either, right? Yeah. So I think the problem in a lot of organizations is they don't recognize these three different groups and the implications of them, and they treat everybody the same. And they're just sort of like, hey, everybody, share our press release. Hey, everybody, or like, here's a tool, here's an advocacy tool that helps you like just have all our press releases and all our awards and all our job postings at your fingertips. Go share them, and they treat everybody alike. And they, in their attempt to treat everyone alike, they end up like not being relevant to anyone. So I think what you got to do is you've got to recognize that this pyramid exists. It always does. You've got to start to recognize who, like, the proportions are different from company to company, but it's always there. You got to recognize that. You got to figure out who's who. And then if you're working with people at the top of the pyramid, how are you helping them be great? And if you're working in the middle, how are you helping them make it easy? Because they already know that it's important, but and if you're working at the bottom, throw that stuff out and double down on why they should care.
I'm seeing a great visual there. I think we could work up a wonderful infographic for that. My creative mind is going. That's brilliant. Brilliant analogy, Steve. Brilliant. I want to come back to this talent acquisition, right? Because obviously there's a lot of talk in the market at the minute. We've got a session next week on this, actually. The whole great resignation, the big quit. I know everybody's a bit tired of those phrases, but it is a thing, right? It's a thing. It's hard to hire good talent. It's an absolute frenzy at the minute. The market, the talent market is in a frenzy. It's hard to get them, find them, communicate with them. It's so noisy. People are, the markets are starting to move up again. What impact does having this social hyper-connected organization, you call it super connected enterprise, have on that? How does it give you a cutting edge in that context?
Well, first of all, everybody wants to be on a winning team, right? Yeah. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants to be empowered and enabled. Lots of companies out there telling you, well, how about you show us instead? Show, don't tell, right? Show us that you're a winning team and show us that your people are enabled and empowered, and really truly activating your people on social, not as advertising robots who just push promotional content, but as real human beings, as real passionate professionals who show up and speak up and have a voice. Well, that does a world of good for your sales and marketing and all that stuff we were talking about before. Yeah. But to your point now, it's really can help make you a magnet, because people just think, wow, those people are good. Those people are empowered. Those people are enabled. I want a piece of that, because that looks and feels a whole lot different from what I got right now. That's what a lot of people are going to say. But beyond that, and then more tactically, I think that the vast majority of organizations do so many things wrong when it comes to talent acquisition. So allow me to rant for a moment.
Oh no, go for it. Yeah.
The post, right? Like, we're hiring. Know anyone who might be interested? You see those like 10 times a day, right?
Yeah.
The optics are all wrong, right? First of all, we're hiring, so it's about us. We've got seats to fill. It's not about you. It's not about the talent. Why?
Yeah.
Know anyone who might be interested? Like, we're so desperate. Please, somebody fill out a job application. You don't sound like a winning team, right? And then if you actually do read their job posting, their job description, it's just like a laundry list of must-haves. And 5 years of this and this and this and this, must have, with precious little talk about how this can be a transformational experience for you and your career, and what you will do and what you will have the opportunity to become in this role, and how this will be a step change in your career, that if you're this kind of person, you can come here, and here's how we'll enable you and empower you and help you be amazing, and this is going to like change the trajectory of your career. Like, wow. Like, but how often do you see a job posting like that? So they get it wrong from the moment they post it with the "we're hiring," and then it's wrong in the job description, and then it's wrong in the process when they put you through multiple series of interviews stretched over weeks. Meanwhile, the more nimble companies are like snapping good people up way more quickly. And another thing is, and back to where the heart of this conversation, where are your people in this like, why is it just like somebody in HR who's like, if I'm going to be seriously excited about joining another company, it's probably because I've seen that leader, like whether it's that CEO or it's those VPs in that company or it's the directors in that company, I've seen them showing up and speaking up and being like, wow, those people are good. I could learn a lot from them, and they care about others, and they truly are out there, shaping the market. I want to work with that person. I want to work for that person. Like, where are your hiring managers? Where are your leaders in this process? Why are they just sitting back waiting for HR to say, here's a slate of candidates? Why aren't they so I just think that companies get it wrong across the board, and many. And which is amazing for those who get it right. You activate your people, you activate your leaders. You when you post, it's not just we have seats to fill. It's and it's not like the join the rocket ship. It's like it's talent centric. Just like I said before, we need to be buyer centric in our social activity. Well, we also need to be talent centric, and most organizations are neither. They are blank corporate slates, or they're very, very selfish and self-serving in the optics of what they do. And just like it turns off buyers, it turns off talent. And if you're doing all this stuff wrong and whining about, oh, it's hard to hire, I don't have a lot of sympathy for you.
I love it, Steve. I think you're spot on.
But tell me how I really feel.
No, I know. That's why you're on here, Steve. But I think you've nailed it. I'd almost go one step further, because we're going to. I remember your post on this, actually. We're hiring, and it really got me thinking. And I'm going to use the campfire analogy again, in the same way that you might look for indicators as to how, the potential customers are coming closer to the fire. you can actually do the same. As somebody said to me, you need to build a talent pipeline of people that are interested to join your tribe, right? And your vibe will attract your tribe, whether you've got a job for them this week or next year. The timing is everything. But actually, how do you nurture that talent to stay interested in your company? And advocacy is not a platform for getting out the latest job advert. It's actually about activating employees as part of that process, creating, their voices to show diversity, inclusion, belonging. I can be myself. I can share articles that I'm interested in. That in itself is a magnet. To your point, you used that earlier with social selling. But I almost wonder whether, and I'm going to be a bit bold here, but even the job descriptions are probably going to, it's more important to find the right spirit and values that will fit in your organization. And then when the timing is right, you say, look, you've expressed several, you keep calling us, you keep coming close to the fire. Let's have a chat. Mm-hmm. It's pretty radical thinking. Maybe you could be like the Chris Walker of the social talent.
Yeah, I mean, truly, it's like a typical job description is 80% must-haves and 10% about us, and like virtually no, oh yeah, and then they'll tell you like great benefits and snacks in the cafeteria. Oh boy, drop everything. I'm going to make a career change for granola bars. They're just so bad. They're so bad. I mean, if you just flip that around and make it 80% about what an amazing opportunity this is for the right kind of person, and what you'll learn, what you'll accomplish, what you'll own, what you'll do, the skills you'll grow, the exposure you'll gain, all this, and then 20%, in order to be the right person for this is the kind of background we're looking for. Like, I'm not saying that stuff doesn't matter, but just flip your 80-20 around the other way. Because the traditional job posting and the traditional job description is only appealing to the bottom segment of the talent market, the people who need a job. And no disrespect, I've been there. When you need a job, and you're going to take whatever is offered to you to put food on the table. But if you really want to, get the people who are presently successful, and are really, really in demand, you got to start by recognizing that they got options. Like they don't need a job. It's they are choosing where to work. And if you flip around all of this, now you become a magnet for that top tier of talent, instead of just kind of soaking up the people who really need a job right now.
Now, I'm going to also throw, you've got to win the hearts and minds of those people, which is what you said earlier, talking about customers. Gosh, there's a big correlation here. I'm going to, Mike, he just said the same thing as me. Steve, you should go into HR consultancy. I've just said that. You should be like the Chris Walker of the talent. Joke aside, I do promote more and more to post a personal video to promote the role as a hiring manager. Any comments on that?
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I love it. I've hardly ever seen anybody do that. And if you're doing that, and the content of that video is talent centric and not like, let me tell you how great I am, then that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. And they have a huge role to play, right? Because so much of the decision when you're moving to a new role is, who am I going to work for? Do I like that person? Can I work with that person? Are they coming across? And, so
the parallels here between selling and hiring are massive, right? Massive overlap. Yeah. And think about the poor, and this is another thing Chris Walker and others talk about in the sales, but you are a high intent inbound, I want to talk to sales, and what's the first experience you get? Well, they put you on one of the newest people in the company. They put you on the SDR to qualify you, and meanwhile, it's you kind of disrespect that person. Actually, Chris just posted about reaching out to 10 companies that he was interested in buying from, and I think he said all 10 of them, the first call was with a very junior SDR to qualify him, rather than someone who was in a position to show him product and really talk to him as a peer. But the same thing happens with talent, right? It's like, what's the first experience? Well, often it's a junior HR person qualifying you.
Yeah.
You know, what a different experience it would be if it was the hiring manager, like, or a more senior person reaching out to recognizing, based on your LinkedIn profile and everything, that you are a valid. I'm not saying that they should spend all their day talking to everybody, far from it, but like, what a different experience it would be if the first conversation was with your prospective new boss, or a more senior person in the organization who could really talk to you peer to peer. That'd be game changing.
That's brilliant. Do you know, I've just realised it's 10 to. I can't believe we've been talking for this long.
So we got what,
Honestly,
another hour and 10 minutes? Is that the
I
way this
know.
works?
It's like Dave Perry. We're going to have to put in part 2, I think, and to start digging into your new podcast about talent and social that you're going to need to do. I love everything that you've said. And I know we've moved a bit off the marketing topic, but it all impacts, I think. I am starting to think, actually, it's a bit about the brand experience in many ways. You know, customer experience is one thing and buyer centric, but it is about the experience that your employees, your customers, your stakeholders, the experience that they have with your brand, and how you humanize that and scale it and personalize it. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think of it. Think of a big Venn diagram, right? And you've got marketing outcomes, sales outcomes, talent acquisition outcomes, and but the middle, where all these things overlap, is empowered, enabled people, right?
Yeah.
Where people are truly empowered and truly enabled to be their absolute best, and to show up and speak up and elevate themselves and elevate their firm. It feeds all of these things, and that's why I think that's the heart of it, and that's where I think the huge opportunity is, and that's where the super connected enterprise will emerge from, and like that's the place to focus. And it's not just for sales or just for marketing or just for talent. It's for the entire organization.
I kind of feel like we need to stop on that note, because I was going to ask you about pitfalls and mistakes, but I just feel that might leave us on a bit of a negative note. And I quite like what you've just done there. So maybe we'll
the mistake is don't do any of this stuff. The mistake is just keep doing what you're doing. How about that?
I think you have touched on some of the pitfalls and mistakes as we've gone through. I mean, are there any others to add that you just think, oh, do you know, just don't do that? But we have been talking about them as we've gone through, haven't we? So
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, let's just come back to where we kind of started, where you said, is this social selling or whatever? I think you've got to reboot your mindset about what we're doing here. I mean, people are not on LinkedIn to be hunted. So salespeople, stop hunting. And people are not on LinkedIn to be advertised at. So marketers, stop seeing LinkedIn as just an ad channel. You know, LinkedIn is not a giant hunting ground. LinkedIn is not a advertising channel. LinkedIn is a community. LinkedIn is a conversation. And just like in our offline lives, we don't like people who are selfish. We don't like people who are self-centered. We don't like people who only talk about themselves. We don't like people who try to turn every interaction into something, a selfish win for themselves. If you embrace this idea that LinkedIn is a conversation or a community, and you approach it with an honest intent to educate, inspire, engage, celebrate others, help others, and you give more than you take, it changes everything, and it drives all those outcomes. It helps your marketing, it helps your selling, it helps your talent acquisition, it helps to enable and empower your people, and it just makes everything far more enjoyable for you and far more enjoyable to the people who you come across in your day-to-day life. So I mean, if there's one thing that I would urge people to do, is reframe in your mind what social is and what social can be. And when you move beyond hunting grounds, and you move beyond advertising channels, and you move beyond short-term transactional outcomes that are easily measured, and you think community, and you think conversation, everything else starts to fall into line.
Yeah. Brilliant. You amaze me, Sue. I love chatting to you. I love it when we're on the radio shows, and we sort of bounce off each other. And I just thank you so much. And thanks for all your amazing comments for those that are watching. I know we've had folks dipping in and out, but yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I love our conversations. And yeah, I mean, almost an hour has by, and we didn't even cover everything we wanted to.
I know. I'm sorry again, Estefano, if you're still watching, but maybe we'll do another one in 6 months' time and just see where everything's at. Now I've got to figure out how to turn this thing off, because obviously I'm not.
You're going to be live streaming yourself while you're sitting there.
I'm driving this. We haven't got Estefano today, guys, and
well, thanks everyone who hung in for our conversation. Great to see you again, Sarah.
Cheers, Steve. Take good care. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.